Hey guys, welcome back to Phil Plays TCG. Today, I want to bring you a topic that I have been thinking about for quite a while, and a lot of people in the community seem to be bringing it up now on the community pages, and that is, why doesn't Fusion World have a sideboard option? Like, I understand One Piece, their other very successful game, doesn't have a sideboard, but Dragon Ball Super Masters does have a sideboard and has been using a sideboard for years. It helps, there's a lot of benefits to having a sideboard, allowing you to prepare for the potential matchups you see. And so today I want to go over some of my thoughts, kind of rant a little bit, and just kind of go over why we should be adding a sideboard into this game. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, make sure to hit that like button, because if you like Dragon Ball Super Fusion World content, you are in the right place, and I really appreciate any and all support you guys are willing to give. YouTube stuff out of the way, let's talk about the video here and the topic of sideboards. Basically, reasons for a sideboard. There's a lot of reasons, but here are just a couple of mine. I'll try not to, repeat myself too many times. But a sideboard allows you to tech up against a bad matchup, because it's, say it with me now, you can't build a deck to face every other deck well, unless you're top coup, but we saw what happened with that. And you see that in the next point here, you can't tech for every matchup normally. Basically, you can have a deck of 50 to 60 cards. Typically, though, you want to have a lower deck count so you're able to see more of your pieces more more frequently, and it's just easier to, play the game. Some decks will want to go 60 cards, but I don't see a reason why as of right now. There just hasn't been a real good reason. Zamasu did for a little while, but switched back down to 50 for 52. But basically, there's only so many cards you can fit into a 50 to 52 card deck, and to make sure your deck plays properly, you can't tech for every single option. As a blue player, the worst matchup I have is green, so I do tech a few cards into my deck so I can face green. But in the situation that I don't face any green decks, those cards are kind of useless, or not. They're not useless, but they're not nearly as good as they should be. And I'll get to an example later in the video. But it also allows for more skill and less luck-based matchups, because unfortunately there are some matchups where straight up, like, you see your opponent put their leader down, you're like, oh great, they're playing this color, which is kryptonite to my deck. Okay, well, I now have an uphill battle. And it's like what I mentioned earlier, it's kind of vice versa. If you say like, oh, well, green's my worst matchup, but I'll be fine, I won't tech in any cards, because, like, what are the chances of me playing green? And then you play green. It's crazy. Or, like the matchup for, green doesn't like facing against yellow or red. But green has a lot of really good tech cards that are in their deck normally that can help deal with the bad matchups. So there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of ways you can build a deck, but you can't build a deck to have a good shot of facing every single color. It's just not possible. And it allows you for more skill-based gameplay. So if you see what color you're playing or what leader you're playing against, like, okay, let me tech these cards out that are not going to do good, and put these cards from my sideboard that will do good. I probably should say this also, that in Dragon Ball Super Masters, you have a 15 card sideboard that you're able to look at in between matches, or if it's best of one pre-side, you get to look at your sideboard, pick out the cards you want to put in your deck, and take that exact number of cards from your deck back into your sideboard. So your sideboard always has to have 15, and your deck, you can't just like, oh, I'm going to throw 3 more cards into my sideboard, and then from my sideboard into my deck, and then not put any cards from my deck back in my sideboard. Doesn't work like that. You have to swap cards out. And I think it allows for more creative deck building as well, because you're able to, like, oh, this deck's really, really cool, but it's really bad against this 1, maybe 2 bad matchups. So I'm going to build this deck. It's going to be really interesting, very neat, very unique. But then, oh, if I do happen to play against this particular matchup, then I'm just going to swap some stuff out and, make it more normal or more consistent, And those are reasons I think that, well, a couple reasons why I think, sideboards only benefit a game. I, don't see why we haven't been implementing one yet. So Example, I mentioned, blue into green. I'm a blue player. Green is the worst color for me to play against. That's why I do test quite a bit against it. But basically, hypothetically, say you're playing Trunks. You have two great removal tools. You have Sinister Sickle right here, and you have Absolute Lightning. In the green matchup, let's say Androids late game, Sinister Sickle is a useless card. So it's a dead card in hand. It hits nothing that green plays in the second half of their game, and it's pretty much useless. But it's good against every other color. But in this case, you have another 3-cost card that would be way better in the matchup, and that is Absolute Lightning. So for the same amount of energy, 3 and 3, you would want to play this card against green. You wouldn't want to play it against Sickle. So in a perfect world where we could have a sideboard, blue players would sub out their Sinister Sickles and grab Absolute Lightnings instead to have a better matchup against green. Easy enough, Now, on the other side, say you're playing blue into red. Let's say Jiren, for instance. Sinister Sickle becomes far better because most of red stuff is 4 costs or less. Sure, there's a couple cards that are over the 4 cost limit, but for the most part, red's bread and butter is 4 costs and less. So Sinister Sickle, great card. On the other hand, Absolute Lightning is not nearly as good. Now, instead of paying 3 to hit 2 cards, you're paying 3 to hit 1 card. Sure, you can hit anything that's above 4, but it's not going to be as useful into red. So in those matchups, say you for some reason have more Absolute Lightnings in your deck, if you have more Absolute Lightnings than Sinister Sickles, you could take out the Absolute Lightnings, place them with another card from your sideboard that would do better in the in the red matchup, and you would then maybe max out your Sinister Sickles. Maybe you have like 2 in main deck, 2 in sideboard. Now you just pop 2 more into your main board. Boom, done. Now you feel a lot more confident up against the red matchup. Same thing with the green matchup from the previous slide. It's all about at least from, excuse me. When I was playing more Masters competitively, I saw when I would sit down against an opponent, I'm like, oh, cool. They're playing this leader, which means they're going for this strategy. I look through my sideboard. I'm thinking okay, what's going to help me in this matchup? What's going to be good? Then I look through my deck. I'm like, yeah, this is not going to do well in this matchup. So it creates that extra level of skill and planning that I really think this game could use. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on in my throat today. Another example. Now, the yellow matchup into green. Yellow into green is kind of weird. It does have a decent matchup into green because it just keeps a lot of their bigger stuff tapped down. But for example, a newer card that people are using is Final Explosion in yellow decks. And this card is fantastic against lower cost bodies. But once again, playing into green, which has a lot of higher cost bodies, this card really doesn't do anything. So in that case, this Secret Rare Golden Frieza from set 2 would be a lot better of a card to throw in. So in that situation, you could take out the Final Explosions, you could throw in some Golden Friezas, that way, boom, you have a little bit better of a chance to play into the green matchup. Now, is it guaranteed win? No, nothing's a guaranteed win, but you would have a better time and just probably a more enjoyable experience because you feel like you're more prepared for the matchup. And it goes vice versa for the other deck too. If green sees that they're playing into yellow, or green's playing into blue, they can start teching their deck out or swapping cards from their sideboard to help against that matchup as well. It works both ways. The benefits are there. And then, let's say you're playing yellow into black, one of the newer colors that's going to be typically more lower cost cards on board. Nothing like crazy big in this deck. Golden Frieza would not work. Golden Frieza would be a card you would immediately want to swap out for, and you would want to probably throw in more Final Explosions. So there are so many ways you could do this. There's so many ways you can properly build your sideboard, and when you're building a sideboard, it shows your creativity. It's like, okay, what are the chances I'm going to play against this? What are the chances I'm going to play against this? I probably should take in a couple of these, take in a couple of these. Building your sideboard is a really fun thing. I used to hate the sideboard too. If you look back at really old videos for Dragonball Super Masters, I used to complain about sideboards, but after a while, I got used to it and actually really now enjoy the idea of it. So, like I said, there are benefits to this for both players. And to wrap it all up here, I reiterated earlier, Masters has been doing this for years. It hasn't, like, I know they probably didn't start until like probably didn't start Sideboards, I don't think, until like set 3, maybe set 4. So who knows, maybe we will be getting a sideboard feature later on. But for now, I think they should really think about including one before the release of set 4, or at the very least at set 4's launch. And I cannot think of a reason not to add it. It only benefits decks and deck building. So if you can think of a negative reason to not have a sideboard in this game, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to have this discussion with you. But I think I'm going to wrap this up here. Just a quick, easy thing. Just a topic that I've been thinking about and that I've been seeing more people bring up. So I want to give my 2 cents because, you know what? I love to do that on the internet. So thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I will see you on the next video. Take care, guys.